Good evening, everyone. This is Marie with The Proper Palette. Thank you for joining our podcast. I am coming to you live tonight from New York City, my secret lair in New York City where the hustle and bustle is going on outside and you don't hear anything in here but stillness. It was really cold out today, super cold. Not as cold as it was last night, but it is chilly. And I was out in the cold all day today, and I have to say, I am definitely not built for the cold, but it's the things you do for business. I hope everybody is inside right now and warm and cozy. So I was outside today, and I seen a lot of stuff regarding the holidays. The holidays are starting, and it got me thinking about some holiday memories of when I was younger. And so I often wonder what it would be like if my mother was still alive. And I know that sounds pretty heavy, but trust me, I'm not getting into anything heavy right now. I always wonder, would I be the chef and the cook that I am today? Would I be where I am? Would I appreciate the memories I have of all of the holidays I've had with her? Many of us here have probably lost our mothers, and there are days we're sad and others happy just thinking about them. And I could say at this point in my life that I am extremely happy, especially when I think about her. And I thought about her today, and she had so many words of wisdom. Like, she had so much wisdom to share, and she had her own unique way of sharing it. And when it came down to the holidays, she absolutely loved the holidays. So it really warms my heart when I'm out with the masses of everybody, with the hustle and bustle again of the holiday time, especially in the city. And even, by the beach, and no matter where I am, I just think that the holidays are just such a special time, and they are to me. And I think what happens is we get so caught up with that, with the idea of the holidays, and stress comes, and it's just such a stressful time. And I think we need to just take a deep breath and chill out, put our phones away, stop trying to take the best selfie. I could be on the train, or I could be, driving. And I see even people driving, taking selfies of themselves, which is just frightening. It just seems like everybody is trying to capture, the best moment. I see it in Bryant Park the other night, with people just snapping pictures. And I'm thinking, why can't we just have memories? Why can't we just have memories of that moment? Of course, we all want to grow old and have our faculties, and the faculties of our brain and our memories. And, I understand that, everyone wants to Memorex every entire minute of their life, but I just think it's so unnecessary. And it just makes everything, I don't know. I just think we need to go back to basics a little bit. So that's what gets me thinking about holidays, and when I was younger. And Thanksgiving, was a giant event at my household growing up. My mom would start baking pumpkin, cherry, blueberry, apple pies. I mean, every kind of pie, pumpkin bread, you name it. And she would start baking the week of, Thanksgiving. And it was just such a huge thing. And she loved doing it. And I would help her. And that's how, obviously, I learned a lot of different things. My mom had to keep my dad away from the pies. He had such a sweet tooth. He still does. My father still, to this day, has a sweet tooth. And I'm going to tell you a funny story. I was away, and I had asked my father, hey, could you walk my dogs for me? And he obviously walked my dogs. I got home, a couple of days, I was away for a couple days. I came home, and I walk in, and on my counter, there's oregano everywhere. Just oregano everywhere. I'm like, where the heck? Why why is my oregano all over my counter? So I call my father, which, by the way, I lived across the street from him. I could have just walked over there, but I called him. And I said, hey, Dad, you walked my dogs, right? He said, yeah. I said, okay, did you happen to see the oregano on the counter? What happened? And he said, I was looking for cookies. He was looking for cookies. And I said, what? But I didn't find anything. I said, well, you certainly found the oregano and you got it all over the counter. And he said, I figured I'd just leave that for you to clean up. It was too much. So thanks, Dad. So that just gives you an idea of what he's like, the cookie monster. I always say that to people. During the holidays, my mother always made cookies and things like that, especially during Christmas. And there's a chocolate chip cookie within a 2-mile radius of my dad is not safe. The man can sniff out a homemade cookie. And I said to him, I started laughing. I said, Dad, why would you even look for why would you even look for cookies in my cabinets, in my cupboard? And he said, I don't know. I was like, well, I don't buy things. I don't eat sweets, and I only bake for other people. So you're definitely not finding cookies in my cupboard. So it was just, so that kind of gives you an idea, how my father is. And it's just so funny. So my mom would have to keep everything away from him because of his sweet tooth. And, this would set up to our giant Last Supper Italian dining room table. We had the most giant table, and it would just be, before we even got, the turkey dinner and, the Thanksgiving dinner, we would have, the bowl of mixed nuts, the fanook, the Italian, the anise. We'd have, the grapes and the clementines, all the fruit and stuff on the table. And, that was even before that was just like the stuff you pick on before the pickies. And then would come the antipasta. And, we'd have all the salamis and the meats and the cheeses and the breads and all that stuff with the stuffed hot peppers and the prosciutto and the provolone and the stuff like that. So all that good food would come first. And then we would have our meal. And again, our Thanksgiving was very traditional. It was the turkey. It was the stuffing. Oh, my mother used to make the best stuffing ever. I mean, I've watched her make stuffing. And, I've made it, but just nothing compares to her stuffing. Stuffed mushrooms, I should say. Sweet potatoes, the mashed potatoes, the corn, green beans, gravy, cranberry. Typical stuff. And my mother and my older brother, Joe, hated cranberry. They were the only two that never ate cranberry. Now, I know I have friends, and plenty of them, that are culinary snobs. And they're like, how could you have cranberry out of a can? Well, guess what? I love the jelly cranberry in the can. You open the can, you crack the bottom, get that air in there. It makes that suction noise. And then you slice that sucker up and you put it on top of your turkey. Dark meat only. Thank you very much. White meat is disgusting. I'm not a fan of turkey anyway, but if I have to eat it, it's going to be smothered in gravy and with some canned cranberry. That's right. I don't like those chunks of cranberry, and that chutney. And, I'll do that for other people, but I'm sorry. I'm a traditionalist. I'll stick to my can. And what's good about that is they now have organic in the can. High in sugar, but man, it's only one time a year. It's fantastic. So, it's just so funny. My whole family would sit around the table. There was 5 of us kids, my parents, my grandfather, my aunt. Then my siblings would have their spouses or boyfriends or girlfriends or whoever it may be. It was a packed house. And then we'd sometimes have other family members over and stuff. So it was great. I mean, holidays in my household were just something that I'll never forget. My whole family would eat. We'd watch March of the Wooden Soldiers. My older brother and I would just get so excited because that was one of our favorite black and white March of the Wooden Soldiers. It was the beginning of the Christmas season, and we would be all about it. And it was just so much fun. My other brother would be sitting there, showing his strength and taking 2 walnuts and cracking them in between his hands and burping the alphabet, while my mother would be yelling at him saying, you stop, that's gross, clean up after yourself, that was my mother's heavy New York accent, and and then after we ate, my dad would hold his belly with two hands, and he still does to this day, and say, shit, I ate too much. So a lot of times he knows he ate too much in his belly. We'd all have to do the button release, and now when we get together, we all know better. We don't wear our jeans. We wear stretchy pants like Joey from Friends. So it's just so funny, and it was just and then we had dessert. Of course, you'd have to have dessert. I mean, how could you not? But we'd wait a while, and before we even thought about having dessert, because dinner was so filling. The one thing that I hated the most, and I still do to this day, is cleaning up. I'm a neat person, but I'm just don't like cleaning up after the holidays with all those dishes. We didn't even use paper dishes, and I was not a fan. So I would just disappear. I would go. I would help my mom cook. My sister was better at cleaning than she was at cooking, and her kids can attest to that. I mean, she did what she had to do. She would make rice-a-roni and chicken cutlets. That was her favorite. And I have to say, when I was younger, go into the house when the kids were young, I enjoyed eating the rice-a-roni and the chicken cutlet, but she was better at cleaning, so I just let her. I would let her. And my nieces, they all still joke. They're like, oh, there goes Aunt Marie, she's running off to the bathroom or whatever. I make sure that I'm very busy when it comes time to clean that table up, because I'll have to tell you, even when I'm in my kitchen, I loathe cleaning dishes, which is why you hire people, right? So you hire people to clean those dishes for you, so you don't have to do it. If you don't have a dishwasher, you hire a physical dishwasher. So that's where I'm at with that. So all of this led up into Christmas. And growing up, the highlight of every year was creating a Christmas list. And my childhood friends and I would sit in the parlor. Now, see, I don't even know where that word came. I know it's a fancy word for it's a fancy living room, the parlor. And I don't even know if that was our accent. It probably was, but across the street, that's what they called it, the parlor. So we would sit there with our colored pens in hand and write until our fingers ached. We'd proudly show our parents, who, by the way, were dismayed by the length of those lists. And we'd postmark on the pole and impatiently wait for Christmas Day. But of course, by that glorious morning, we had forgotten, what was on the list. So still, we'd wake up. My siblings and I would wake up before sunrise and get out of bed and run to the living room and look for all the gifts, look through everything. See, I was the youngest of 5, and the 3 older ones were pretty much out of the house. So it was always my brother and I. It's like we had 2 different childhoods. It was, my 3 older siblings, they have their memories from, the 70s and the 60s, 70s, whatever, when they were young. And then, my brother, that's the younger, he's before me. We're 4 years apart. He and I have the closer childhood together because we shared that. So it was pretty interesting. But yeah, we would wake up, he and I, we were like, oh my God. My parents, of course, were just like, they were early risers, they definitely got up, but they have to have their first cup of coffee before we began ripping the wrapping paper open. But we would just tear into it only to discover that Christmas was over. So we were like, oh, another 364 days to go. And, we got some of the best gifts. I mean, I remember one year I got a light bright. Oh, just anything creative. I wanted the Crayola, crayons, the anything with Play-Doh, anything like the barbershop Play-Doh. Oh my God, that was my favorite thing. And, I wasn't a fan of dolls per se. I liked anything creative. So it was the spiral, I forgot what they call that, spiral graphics, the splatter paint where you stick the paper in the middle, and I just loved all that kind of stuff. So I remember one year my brother and I got a TV, and I say TV, boy, if the kids actually of today saw that this was an actual television, it was probably about 15 inches, which was like the size of an old analog monitor for a computer. And it was a big box, and it had the rabbit ears. And it was before we had cable. And my brother and I would hook up our Nintendo. We were so stoked. We were like, yes, we got a colored TV to hook up our NES. Because, like we had black and white TVs. We had like fuzz. We didn't have like the best stuff growing up, but it did what it did. And our parents had one of those big TVs that was like in the big display case with the speakers on the side. You guys know what I'm talking about. You know what I'm talking about. So we would hook our Atari up to that for so long before we got the Nintendo. So we were really, really stoked. So Christmas was the same thing. It was just, all of my siblings would come home. They would have their kids, or they'd have, their spouses, and it was always a tradition where my mom would get her gifts first. So when everybody was there, all of us 5 siblings and family, my mom would get her gifts first. We always gave mom her gifts, and dad would get his gifts. And then from there, we would exchange, like some of us kids would exchange, but we never really did. I mean, it was mostly for the grandkids at that point. And, there was like 8 of them. So there's so many grandkids. And actually, when I was really younger, there weren't that many. I think there were only like 3 or 4, 3. And I think my first niece was born when I was in the 5th grade. So she's going to be, we're 10 years apart. It's just so funny. But yeah, and the kids would love, we loved going up to the Poconos. My family, was friends with my school teacher, and when I was a child, and my mom were best friends, Carol, and they were just best friends. And they would go up to the Poconos, and we'd cut our trees down, our Christmas trees. It was just like the best times of our lives. And we would stay in their beautiful home in the mountains and wherever. It was just in the woods, and it was snowy, and deer would come up. It was just like perfect. You couldn't ask for a better time. And the food, again, it was always everything was around food. It was always a lot of food. Again, that Last Supper table, it worked for every holiday, whether it be Christmas, Thanksgiving, Easter. We always got together, and it was great. And the whole thing of it was that we were together. We were together, and we were happy, and there was no fighting. We had laughter, and we would talk and reminisce, and there were no cell phones. It's like nobody was interrupted. The only interruptions we had was after we ate, people would go sit down in front of the TV and watch whatever was on, It's a Wonderful Life, or or Griswold's Christmas Vacation in the 80s, and whatever was on TV, that's basically what we would do. But we sat around the table and we talked. We spoke to each other, and we shared memories, and that, to me, if I can go back to a time like that, it's great. Because, it was great. My mom really made all of us kids into like little Martha Stewarts. Even my brothers. It's the funniest thing. I'm not sure what we liked more. I didn't know if it was cooking, eating, or decorating. Because during the holidays, my house looked like it exploded Christmas. My mother would put decorations. She was in charge of the inside. Her and I would just deck the halls until we were blue in the face. And she had a big Christmas tree in the living room, and then she'd have another Christmas tree in the dining room. Garland around every opening had lights, garland. She'd have things hanging up. And my mother was so good at making handmade items. And I still have her stuff. She would make little snowmen and sew them up with her hands, and she put them, I mean, just, you name it, this woman was just amazing. A seamstress. She was just an artist all around. And I remember one year she made Christmas outfits for my sister's kids. I mean, they were so cute. But, you look back at them now and you're like, oh boy, like, that's an interesting looking outfit. I mean, she handmade it. It was like straight up plaid Christmas colors. It was like Christmas puked on those kids, and it was hysterical. So, again, since my mother passed, things have changed a bit. We all sit around the table when we can get together. It's usually in different groups. I'll just go to my sisters or my brothers, or, we very rarely all get together. But when we do, it's a lot of fun still. I notice we don't really look at our phones. Occasionally, we'll want to take a picture, and we use our cell phones, and we all get around like, come on, let's get all of the nieces with the aunts, or let's get all of the grandkids with grandpa, or whatever it is. But it's just that. But we always sit around the table and we just share and we reminisce. And I love that. I love that about my family, that we don't have to sit there and look at our phones. We just sit there and have a good time the way it's meant to be. And again, like I said, my mom they say it, the mothers are the glue of the family, and things have changed. But I think it's okay. We've learned to adapt. And that is what it is. But we all still love each other, and we see each other when we can, and it's great. I still, wake up before sunrise on Christmas morning. But it's not to open presents or torture my parents, to open gifts, but instead to pass out breakfast and presents to those in need. And I normally don't talk about that stuff. I really don't. But I think it's the most rewarding feeling to pass on the love that my mother gave to me each Christmas and each holiday, and even when it wasn't holidays, through food and laughter. Somehow I feel like she lives on through me. Sometimes I'll be in my kitchen and I'm, kneading dough, and I look down at my hands and I see her hands. It's the most remarkable thing. And she really is my angel. She guides me. She really does. And I wouldn't be who I am today without her. And it's this time of year that I always remember her for that. And I thank her. So I hope you guys have a fantastic holiday season. And please enjoy your time with your loved ones. And we hope to talk to you soon. And please leave your comments if you want. Share your memories. I would love to hear it. If not, private message me and let me know, and maybe I'll share it. All right, guys. Hope you have a nice, warm evening. Take care.